Time now to say hello to our first guest this evening, two actors who are inviting us into their fairy tale worlds for their latest roles. Please welcome Helen George and hot on the heels of her BAFTA nomination, Rosamund Pike.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, good to see you both. Brightening up a Monday.
Yeah, it's very nice.
You're both taking on some pretty epic characters at the minute. We're going to chat about The King and I in a second. But first, shall we go there?
We're going to go there. We're going to go there. We're going to get into it in a minute. Yes, it's the movie that lots of people have been talking about. It's actually giving Barbie a run for its money at the BAFTAs in a few weeks. It's fair to say this is one for the adults. So let's have a look.
I don't think I'll ever go home again.
Well, why don't you come home with me? Come to Saltburn.
Beautiful eyes. Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, I told you it wasn't a minger.
Oh, but darling, you're kind about everyone. You can't be trusted.
I think I like you even more than last year's one.
Can't have been easy for Venetia. With you being a mother.
Why?
This place, you know, it's not for you.
Lots of people get lost in Saltburn.
Oh, that's just giving me goosebumps. Look, Pamela.
Oh, no.
Oh, I absolutely loved it.
Oh,
now,
thank you.
Oh, well, the story follows Oliver and Felix, doesn't it? And it's a difficult one to describe at this time of evening, really. But what would you say, Rosamund, is at the heart of the story?
Well, it's just a nice family drama, just set in a kind of bigger house than most of us live in. That's all, really. I mean, it is set in an enormous British house, which is a character in itself. And it's kind of what it feels like, I suppose. If we're all looking at people's lives that we don't have on Instagram, I suppose the film is what it feels like to actually enter that life that you've spent so long ogling. And a boy who goes up to Oxford, he meets Felix Catton, who's my son, played by Jacob Elordi, and Felix kind of takes pity on his misfortune. He comes from, you know, a difficult family background, and invites him home for the summer. And the film is really what ensues over that summer. And it's not anything as any of us would have expected.
Definitely not. You know, Alex mentions kind of it following Oliver and Felix, but your character, Elspeth, I mean, the love that Elspeth's been getting just from audiences that have watched it. I mean, has it surprised you? Because
it's astonished me. I mean, I knew she was a wonderful character because I think she's real, you know. I think she is funny, but she's funny because she's real. These people exist. These people who, you know, she's very bored, she's very entitled, she's very rich. She almost has a fear of having to deal with her own family, so it's very, very handy if you can have a long-term guest come to stay, because it's much easier to talk to somebody you don't know than somebody you know well. So actually I realised almost after filming that I don't say anything really directly to either of my children through the entire film. And it, you know, it's the kind of, I suppose we could call it the benign neglect of the upper classes if we wanted to be a little bit provocative. And it was fun to play. And she has that way of... She's not that bright, but she thinks she is. And she likes to think of herself as a sort of benevolent goddess, bestowing her kindness on you know, the unsuspecting guest until she gets bored of them. So it's almost... I think in this world, the Cattons kind of use people as playthings. But, of course, because they're so intoxicating as people, we forgive them their behaviour, because we want in as well, and we would want to stay with them, and we'd want to go to a party at Saltburn. Of course we would. You know?
Absolutely.
Well, on that, you actually stayed, didn't you, at the house during filming? Was that to get into character, or did you just love it and say, I'm staying here?
Well, actually, Emerald was offered the chance to stay there, and I realised in retrospect that she thought that she would go slightly mad if she stayed there. And then she obviously thought for a minute and thought, but it wouldn't be a bad thing if Rosamund went mad. In fact, it might be kind of good. So she suggested that I stayed there. And, of course, I just thought it's going to be longer in bed in the morning. You know, it's
good
you know, no drive to set. Yeah. And then when I got there and they showed me my bedroom and I opened the curtains and the catering trucks were outside, I thought, oh, my goodness, what have I done? But the first night, I was invited by the family, who were very, very generous, to have a truly magnificent party.
Like the one we see in the film?
Well, not as many people, and there maybe were 6 of us, but...
But was it wild?
But it was quite wild, and I think I sold myself rather... I kind of oversold myself as a very enthusiastic and quite fun house guest, which then, of course, I had to work.
Had to deliver.
I didn't really make good on the promise of that first night over the next few weeks.
And Elspeth, as you said, is such a fun character. Was that a nice change? Because you've played some heavy characters, haven't you? And you've done so brilliantly, but it was a bit of light relief, maybe?
Well, she looks so wonderful because she's got wonderful clothes.
Oh, the
and,
outfits.
You know, she's sort of... She hasn't got that much to think about, really, apart from what to wear, what to decide to have for dinner.
What cocktails to have, yeah.
That kind of thing, you know. I mean, there's a lot of thought goes into those decisions, you know, but, you know, that's most of her day. So she was really fun to play. And we did... Emerald allowed us to sort of improvise our way into scenes, and I just could sort of look at any magazine from 2006 and pick whatever story was current at that time, and as Elspeth, sort of insert myself into the centre of it, you know, whether it was, I don't know, whoever was photographed falling out of a taxi, you know, Elspeth would have an opinion on it, or, you know, if Karl Lagerfeld was, you know, losing 16 pounds that year, then Elspeth was at the heart of it, you know. She gave him the advice that he needed, you know, so it was fun.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely brilliant. So if you're an adult, just to reiterate that, if you're an adult,
if you're an adult.
Yeah, be careful who you watch it with.
Yes,
well.
Saltburn is available to watch on Prime Video right now.
Yeah. Time to talk to Helen about her latest project now. It's the classic and much-loved Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, The King and I. Set in 1860s Bangkok, it's the story of the King of Siam who falls in love with an English teacher who arrives at the palace to educate his children, etc., etc., etc.
So, Helen, you're back on stage in The King and I. It's a musical, but it's also a film. It's been loved by many people, you know, for many years. But for kind of like the new people, new viewers kind of getting involved, set the scene for us kind of to what Siam discovers when she arrives in Siam. Sorry, what Anna discovers when she arrives in Siam.
She's a widow and she turns up with her young son, who she now has to support. And she's been employed as the governess and English teacher to the children and the wives of the King of Siam, who he wants to educate. So it's a very modern tale in some ways. It's about education of women, education of daughters as well. And she gets involved in some sort of political advice for the king as well. So they have a very strong relationship, and he really needs her help to keep Siam's independence from the French and the English. But they have a very sort of testy relationship, a bit like, you know, cat and mouse. So it's a fun relationship. And I think the best thing about this musical is that the script is so strong. For musicals, I think, you know, it's an epic script, but it really is one of the best you know, the best books of a musical that I've ever read.
And the music, I'm guessing, is just
The music is so lavish, and we've got a beautiful orchestra as well, which is quite rare now in the West End, with a harp, which we love. So, yeah, it's just very sumptuous and, you know, luxurious to watch.
I cannot wait to go and see it. But we have to, of course, talk about Sunday nights. Call the Midwife, Rosamund.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. Trixie and Matthew, newlyweds, but not going brilliantly. I mean,
yeah, there's a few bumps.
Slightly bumpy road.
Yeah.
How is it to film those scenes?
I mean, hard, of course, because they've just got married and you think, gosh, it's so happy, and he's really rich and she gets all these posh clothes and it's great. But then, you know, there's bumps along the way but it's fun as well, you know. It's their hard-hitting scenes, especially towards the end of the series, but it's very much, it turns into a sort of kitchen sink drama by the end of it. And some of the scenes that were filmed are so sort of real and, you know, like any couple at home stay, they're really great to play, really fun to play, something different.
Helen, I've got a question here for you that I know you're really going to enjoy.
OK.
Marie has asked, could you please ask Helen if she is staying in Call the Midwife?
Oh, gosh, geez.
Marie, the big question.
Well, look, you have to keep watching to the end of the series and just see how the character, you know, evolves this series, and then let's see what happens in the future. Yeah. But I love the show dearly.
Rosalind, you're a fan of the theatre. You love the theatre. Is there a certain script out there or something? What's it going to take, I suppose, for you to get yourself back on stage?
I realise I haven't done a play for 10 years now, which is a long time. But through my 20s, I did a lot of theatre, yeah. And I you know, it's always been a place that I've considered home. You know, when I did a Bond film as my sort of first huge role, and it is huge, and then after that people expect you to go and do another film, and actually I went and did a play at the Royal Court, and I remember being on the 137 bus going over Battersea Bridge down to Clapham and thinking, after I'd been flown around the world, you know, with Pierce Brosnan, I thought, oh, I'm home. I thought, this is who I am, really, you know, and then that transferred to the West End, and you know, it's a buzz, isn't it? There's nothing like it to feel part of London's pulse.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
You know, the hours suit me as well. I quite like being late, a night owl, and
lie in the morning.
Yeah.
But I am looking for something. I don't know what it'll be, but I do want something. I do want something to tempt me back.
Yeah.
Nice. What other role would you want then? Now that you're in this big musical, is there another one that you've got your eye on that you might like to give it a go?
There's so many, of course, there's so many. But traditionally, I've done a lot of sort of period drama, and you know, this is a period show as well. So it'd be nice to do something really modern. I don't always get a chance to do modern stuff.
But then, Helen, you wouldn't get the big dress.
Yes, but I wouldn't have to wear the corset. It's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, ups and downs to everything. Andy says, could you please tell Helen how fantastic she was in The King and I in Manchester? I haven't been to the theatre for years, but took my mother-in-law as a Christmas treat and thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you.
And Julia has actually said Helen's singing and dancing in The King and I is just brilliant. Saw it twice while on tour. That's what it says. Saw it
Lovely.
twice.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
you can see Helen in The King and I at London's Dominion Theatre right now, and in Call the Midwife on Sunday, 8 o'clock on BBC One and iPlayer. Sure, please welcome Big Hass!
Welcome to the show, Hass. I'll call you, the big part. We can.
Yeah. Just call me Hass.
So, semi-finals tomorrow night. You know, I'm a kid on the show. What have they got to do to deliver to make sure they're in the final? It's a lot of pressure.
It is loads of pressure. I always feel like the best dishes are storytelling or culture and background, and we all want to see something a little different as they grow through the challenges, right? I can't give anything away what people have cooked, but this challenge in particular are all recipes from my first cookbook. Okay. So there's a little added extra pressure, but they all did really well, and it's been a great vibe, basically.
It must be nice for you as well to see them cooking your recipes. Would you have done this show when you were a bit younger, and how do you think you would have done?
Not a chance. I didn't know I wanted to be a chef till I was 21. So I'm a fully qualified plumber, but I found out very early. Yeah, but I found out I couldn't fit in air cupboards, airing cupboards. So I was left to like changing toilet seats, and then used my build to do security in the Hayward Gallery on the South Bank and told people not to touch paintings. You'd be surprised how many people want to touch paintings. But I always knew that I wanted to be involved with food, and then Mum pushed me into a little experience with Jamie Oliver, and that's how we became a chef.
Why wouldn't you have done it? Like, what's stopping you?
I know it sounds mad, but I had a reputation to uphold in school, so I couldn't take food technology.
Oh yeah, I get that.
So,
I suppose, yeah.
From London, do you know what I mean? But
I think the narrative changed on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Even watching the show now is that seeing how the younger generation treat food and how interested they are.
Yeah.
I don't feel like when I was a kid that was something to champion or celebrate. It was more about fuel. It was play out on the streets and then run home to eat rice and chicken and then run back out. You know what I mean? So it's good to see how these guys have all taken on this opportunity and where the new faces of food's coming from.
Yeah. So in the Big Hass household, what was the food? What was you running back to fuel up on?
So I'm half Turkish Cypriot, half English. Dad's Turkish Cypriot, Mum's English. And when Dad met Mum, he took her out to Cyprus for 18 months. And she basically come back a Turkish woman. So I grew up half-half when it came to dinners until Dad was really sick of Sunday roasts, and then we started to do barbecue Sunday. Okay. But Mum would cook 6 days a week and Dad would be sat in the barbecue on a Sunday. But very much Turkish mixed with like a Tuesday night fajita or a Thursday night lasagna. So
Tuesday night fajita?
Yeah, right. I like having themed nights at home.
Yeah. It gives you direction, doesn't it?
Of course, and you know what to put on the shopping list the week before, so you're not throwing away food at the end of the week.
Yeah, nice.
What was there just like one dish in particular that made you go, right, I'm going to be a chef now? That's the one that's lit up the, the inspiration.
I don't think so, but the one thing that I remember the most was day one at Jamie Oliver's 15, the first thing I had to do was make a chicken stock. and it took 2.5 hours to prep all the vegetables and brown off the chicken. But whilst that was happening, I got to see almost like the dance of a kitchen, where it was almost like someone was waving everyone along and everyone had their position. And then I was like, this is where I need to be. I'm allowed to do what I want, say what I like, and make sure the food's delicious.
What's your signature dish?
I really like barbecues, but I'm actually very good at pasta.
Oh.
And humble, and really humble at the same time. Super humble.
Massive curveball. But he's very good at it,
Pasta with steak.
Love it.
Ideal.
Well, I can't wait for this. You can see Big Hass on Young MasterChef tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on BBC Three and iPlayer.
OK, we've got loads of messages.
We have indeed.
Rosamund, we have a question from a past teacher of yours, Judith Wakeham-Lucas.
Oh, Judith Wakeham, not Lucas when I knew her.
Oh.
Yes.
One of your former English teachers, she is apparently who directed you in Blood Brothers, and she asks, which role has been the most fun to play?
Well, definitely Blood Brothers, because it was the last time I played a boy, you know, which was obviously, you know, great fun.
Blood Brothers is a brilliant musical.
But no, it's... as Judith, I have to thank for probably getting me, you know, into Oxford. So, you know, and then probably being at Oxford has helped with many, many roles over the years. You know, I've done so many films based on books, Pride and Prejudice, Gone Girl, and they're probably still, you know, up there as my favourite ones, really.
Judith, you deserve to have that dress.
He does, indeed. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much to all of you tonight. Thank you.
Tomorrow we'll be joined by Gaynor Faye, and Ralph Little will be celebrating the 100th episode of Death in Paradise. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you then.
Good night.